Part 3. How to attract and recruit the best volunteers and keep them. In this class, we'll share how coordinators can develop and follow a strategy to successfully recruit and keep volunteers. Volunteers are one of the most valuable resources a nonprofit has. By deciding how to recruit volunteers, clearly explaining your needs, using your social network, and developing a volunteer program, you will create an enjoyable experience and ensure long-term success. Volunteers are, without a doubt, one of the most valuable resources a nonprofit can gain access to. This is primarily the case because nonprofit and public organizations often rely on volunteers to carry out their mission and objectives. Nonprofit volunteers usually give their time and skills to support nonprofit program delivery. Recent studies estimate that about 100 million people volunteer each year with an annual value in the range of $150 billion. Volunteers can help your work save money, provide better support to beneficiaries, increase contact with the greater community, and make available better expertise. What is volunteer recruitment? Volunteer recruitment is the process of recruiting the best candidates for volunteering work in your chapter. Volunteer recruitment is very important for the work SACE as they can help with any number of tasks, from administrative tasks and fundraising to program delivery and spreading the word about the foundation. They are, indeed, the backbone of the nonprofit sector. The report by Fidelity Charitable also states that half of the volunteers give more financial support to the charity because they are volunteers themselves. But many state coordinators struggle to attract as many volunteers as they would wish for, and when they do, they sometimes struggle to keep them. We address these issues in this class. Here's how to attract and recruit the best volunteers for your chapter zone. Volunteer recruitment strategy. As we know from the class before now, a major part of volunteers in the foundation are the facilitators and community care workers, but it is not limited to these alone. You can hire volunteers to help your work in different aspects, like organizing events, program planning, community services, administrative functions like reporting, bookkeeping, registrations, training, etc. This class outlines key steps to satisfying these needs. 1. Get your house in order. Before you bring the volunteers on board, make sure you get your house in order. What does this mean? Work with your plan and get clear on some key areas. For example, 1.1. Volunteer job description. This step is incredibly important, not only to make sure you get the job done by someone who has the right skills but also to increase the chances that the volunteers will be satisfied in their role. Role fit is crucial to job satisfaction. Go over your plans and strategies and review your progress so far. Where is it that you are doing really well? Where are you lagging behind? Identify the performing areas, projects, and programs and then consider recruiting volunteers to help out with those. Ensure you clearly identify the skills that are needed for that to happen and recruit volunteers for those specific roles. Having a written out job description will also help with the onboarding of the volunteers when it comes to it. 1.2. Onboarding process. Volunteer onboarding is the mechanism through which new volunteers acquire the necessary knowledge, skills, and behaviors to become effective members of your organization. Depending on the resources available to you, you might consider creating a volunteer handbook or a formal in-person training program, whatever it takes to efficiently and comprehensively get the new volunteer recruits on board. Have these ready before you start recruiting. That way, you won't ever find yourself in a position in which this isn't ready when a new volunteer comes in. 2. Decide how you want to recruit. There are multiple methods you can use to recruit volunteers. Not every method will be suitable for you. This is why step 1 is important. When you know who you need to recruit and what they will be doing, the how gets much easier. In addition to taking into account the jobs you need volunteers to do, also consider who could do those jobs best and who might be interested in the first place. Depending on your mission field of work, you might attract volunteers from different demographics. Decide how you want to promote the roles: online portals, volunteer fairs, social media, radio. This will depend on your demographic. Finally, decide how long you will need the volunteers for and what exactly will be expected of them. 2.1. Draft your recruitment message. Regardless of which recruitment method you'll use, you must have a compelling recruitment message. Explain what your chapter hopes to achieve and why you need help. Make your message short, simple, and direct. Communicate the need for the volunteer's service. Point out the benefits, e.g. skills and experience, the volunteer will receive as well as the community benefits that arise from volunteering. 3. Use your social network. Maybe the volunteers you're looking for have been right under your nose the whole time. One of the best ways to recruit volunteers is to simply ask your friends and family if they or someone they know might want to volunteer. Then, ask your current volunteers and other staff members to do the same. In addition to that, consider asking your members, their families, and relatives, alumni of our programs, people in your chapter's neighborhood, individuals who have been affected by the problem you are attempting to solve. This tactic will help your reach grow exponentially. Plus, it builds social proof through word-of-mouth marketing. People are more likely to trust people they know than organizations. It's also easier to persuade people who already know you in one way or another than it is those who don't. Similarly to the difference between cold and warm leads in sales. This type of recruitment, therefore, involves primarily people who are already familiar with you and the foundation or the problem you address, or who are connected through friends or staff members. 4. Find your volunteers. In addition to using your social network to find volunteers, there are a plethora of other ways to recruit the right kind of support. Here are some places you can look for. Schools and universities. Schools and universities are often filled with young and enthusiastic individuals who wish to get engaged in community service. Get in touch with the Student Services Department. Businesses. In many communities, businesses look for community involvement opportunities for their employees. Approach the Community Relations, Community Affairs, or Corporate Giving Department within a company. Corporate volunteering is an increasingly popular practice. Clubs and community groups. Reach out to social and professional clubs, campus-based sororities and fraternities, membership groups, and community groups. All of these can be excellent volunteer resources. In addition to these, consider posting flyers and placing announcements in the media. 5. Communicate expectations. Volunteers, like employees, come to your centers with a passion for the cause and interest in the work. They, like every other human being, have preconceived ideas and expectations about their roles in the foundation. In order to keep your volunteers happy, it's essential to clearly communicate expectations at the very start of your work together. Volunteers should be made familiar with their job descriptions in detail, including the inner workings of the foundation to the extent required for them to thrive in their roles, their supervisor, point of contact, and the communication system. Most importantly, volunteers should understand how they will help your work advance the catchment. It's in the onboarding process that you will need to balance volunteer expectations with your own goals and program expectations. This will set the tone for a positive experience for the volunteers. The volunteers should feel like their expectations are heard and their questions answered. This increases the chances that they will continue their involvement with you and the foundation. Communicating expectations will also help new volunteers acclimate to new surroundings and overcome emotions that come with change. 6. Make it enjoyable. Fun is the secret ingredient to employee and volunteer engagement alike. Sure, it's important to draft job descriptions and get your volunteers familiar with the internal communication system, but it's perhaps even equally as important to create an environment in which volunteers will have fun and enjoy their work. One of the ways to achieve this is to create an environment where volunteers can easily develop personal, emotional, and professional connections. In your onboarding process, resources allowing, include activities that will cultivate such connections among volunteers and between volunteers and staff. For example, you could design icebreakers and organize informal social gatherings where volunteers and staff will get to know each other. Furthermore, you could design a shadowing program where new volunteers will shadow experienced volunteers for a period of time. A sense of belonging in a community go a very long way in creating a positive and enjoyable atmosphere that volunteers will want to keep coming back to. 7. Recognize and pay attention. As mentioned previously, similar principles that ensure high employee retention applies to retaining your volunteers too. Recognition and attention are the basics of effective volunteer management and volunteer engagement. Thank every volunteer who helps in any way. Treat everyone with the same respect and make sure no effort goes unnoticed, as much as you can afford to. In addition, make sure you recognize the most active volunteers in your chapter, e.g. Volunteer of the Week per month or a reward. Publicly recognizing volunteers will make them feel proud of their own accomplishments. Pay attention to the experience of your volunteers, what motivates them, how they feel, and how you can help them grow. Although people start volunteering for many different reasons, and they leave for many different reasons too, it's safe to say the following can help. Autonomy. Allow your volunteers to have an appropriate level of autonomy where they can direct their own tasks and come up with strategies and techniques to achieve goals. Mastery. Ensure your volunteers are learning in their roles. Volunteers should feel like they're making progress, like they're mastering something. Match volunteers to roles that are just the right amount of challenging for them. This will help keep them motivated. Purpose. This is arguably easy for coordinators, who already recruit volunteers who buy into the Foundation's mission cause, but everyone gets bogged down in the nitty-gritty of their role at times. Make sure your volunteers see that they're pursuing a higher purpose and contributing to something bigger than themselves. Informally, telling volunteers they're doing a great job and asking their opinions on internal developments are all important. Do something special for your volunteers' birthdays, post about them on your social media, provide them training, and invest in a couple of employee perks that they'll have access to. Paying attention will make your volunteers feel valued and increase the chances that they'll stay with you. Conclusion: there is a lot of work involved in really good volunteer recruitment and retention, but, like most things, it gets easier with practice. You should now have a clearer idea of how to find the right volunteers for your work, and keep them. If you are feeling overwhelmed by what appears to be a huge amount of work just to get volunteers on board, stay calm and optimistic. When you find the right volunteers, the rest of your work becomes easier. You'll have more resources to accomplish your goals, you'll establish a better reputation, and reach out to more people. Your volunteers will also help spread the word for the Foundation, which can bring in more donations, supporters, and employees in. Finally, you'll also strengthen the Foundation's image in your community and create awareness about our mission. A volunteer network is indeed critical to the Foundation's overall success. Volunteers keep our Foundation's mission alive in their communities. Many volunteer attraction and retention factors are under the direct control of the state coordinators. Although it appears there are many aspects to juggle, in terms of the Foundation's time and energy investment, volunteers are more than worth the effort. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Winston Churchill.